I'm an Omega born without a wolf, the lowest existence in the werewolf pack. However, I can hear the voice of my alpha mate's wolf, Jack. As an alpha, Dante Wagner is steady and reserved, and he's not good with words. However, by listening to Jack speak, I know that he loves me deeply, along with many of his little secrets. I hear his wolf ask him, "Is the bonding ceremony the day after tomorrow ready? Remember to use blue roses for decoration at the bonding ceremony." She loves blue roses the most. It's no wonder he has been working late so often recently. He's preparing for this. I'm overjoyed. But just 2 nights before the bonding ceremony, Dante brings his longtime friend back instead. Before I can even react to why he'd bring another she-wolf home, I already hear Jack roaring in fury. "What the hell are you doing? Isn't Ember supposed to be your mate in the bonding ceremony? Why is it Nova now? Have you even considered Ember's feelings? If she finds out that you're bonding with someone else after years of you two dating, she'll become angry and leave. Even if you mark her, I won't acknowledge it. Your fated mate and Luna can only be Ember." Only then do I realize that I've been deluding myself. The surprise isn't prepared for me at all. In that case, there's no need for me to tell him that I'm with Pup either. I pretend to know nothing. On the day of the bonding ceremony, I leave the pack completely. Had just finished cooking dinner and was setting it on the table. Dante walked ahead carrying Nova cross luggage, while she followed behind him with a smile. I could tell it was the smugness of a victor. "MB, this is Nova. Her mate and parents died a month ago, and she'll be staying with us temporarily. You don't mind, do you?" Dante asked. I froze in place, forcing a nonchalant smile. Why would I mind?" Dante nodded with satisfaction. "That's good." Nova put on a bright smile and stepped forward to grasp my hand enthusiastically. "Please take care of me then. You won't find me bothersome, will you, Ember?" I shook my head awkwardly, hiding the report that said I was expecting in my hand behind my back. Then, I heard Jack's furious questioning. "Dante, what are you doing? You brought Nova back to stay temporarily. Why'd she take so much luggage with her then? You clearly want her to live here permanently. And what about the day after tomorrow's bonding ceremony? Isn't that the surprise you prepared for Ember? Why did I see the wedding dress you designed by hand in Nova's luggage?" "Dante, that's Ember's wedding dress. You wouldn't have given it to Nova, would you?" I saw Dante frown. I couldn't hear his voice, but clearly, he was trying to calm Jack down. I clenched my fists and stood frozen in place. After a moment of silence, Jack continued roaring, "What do you mean, Dante? You're going to let Nova participate in the bonding ceremony? How can you do this? What about Ember? No, I only acknowledge her as Luna. I won't accept any other she-wolf. I hate Nova. So, the bonding ceremony 2 days from now wasn't meant for me after all." It was no wonder Dante had been so busy lately, always coming home after midnight. He was preparing for a bonding ceremony with another she-wolf. My heart felt instantly racked with pain. Wasn't I the one he loved most? I had heard Jack say that Dante only liked me. As his wolf, Jack had sensed at first sight that I was Dante's fated mate. But how could everything suddenly change? However, Dante acted as if he hadn't heard Jack's questioning. He glanced at Nova, then looked at me. "MB, Nova's with Pup. Our house has the best environment. Which room gets the most sunlight? Let her have that one." I stared at him in shock, unable to believe my own ears. Jack also voiced an incredulous question, "Dante, you're asking the obvious. The best room is obviously Ember's. Besides, Ember has to give up her room just because Nova's with Pup. Don't tell me the pup is yours. Dante, you've gone too far." Jack was ready to defend me, but Dante must have said something because Jack quieted down. I couldn't get any more information. But what I had heard was already enough. This information was sufficient to destroy me. I swayed and nearly fainted. The report in my hand had been crumpled into a ball, pressing against my palm until my hand bled, but I felt no pain. The ache in my heart surpassed everything else. Never imagined that Dante, who used to love me so much, would do something like this. Nova seemed to notice my hesitation. She immediately put on a pitiful expression, gently shaking my hand. Ember, if it's inconvenient, just forget about it. I'll be fine. Just find me any room, no way. You're pregnant now, so of course, you need proper care. MB, you move to the guest bedroom, Dante insisted. Before I could answer, Nova seemed to deliberately display her presence and superiority. Ember, you won't be angry with me taking over your room, will you? My mate and parents died in a car accident. Dante is only being so kind to me because he pities me. Please don't be angry. I replied, of course. You're with Pup now, and you're alone. It's only right that we take care of you. I pretended to be generous, acting as if giving up my room didn't matter at all. But inside, I felt like my heart was bleeding out. Dante didn't know that I was also with Pup and needed to be cared for as well. I discovered that I was expecting a week ago. The pack's most famous oracle had told me I was carrying a male pup who would become the finest alpha heir. He was destined to rule all the northern werewolf packs and become the alpha king. I had planned to share this wonderful news with Dante at our bonding ceremony, but now it seemed there was no point. He probably wouldn't care about any of this anyway. Nova swaggered into my room. As she passed me, she flashed me a victor's smile. She stepped on my cashmere carpet with her mud-stained shoes, casually picked up the vase from my desk, then pretended to accidentally break it. Then, when she saw the stuffed animal on the bed, she immediately clung to Dante and acted coquettish. Dante, I really love that little wolf plush. Could you give it to me? That plush was handmade by Dante. It was the first gift he had ever given me. Though the craftsmanship was rough, I treasured it. He said he wanted to save it for our future pups. Dante glanced at me. I thought he might hesitate, but he didn't seem to care at all. Sure. My heart ached fiercely, but I could only lower my head to hide my dejected expression. Jack seemed to see my sadness and roared, Dante, that belongs to MB. You have no right to give it to Nova. Dante looked at me with a guilty expression and explained, that one's pretty old. I'll make you a new one later. Okay. Give it to her then. I nodded and turned to leave the room. Chapter 2. In the single day since Nova moved in, she had replaced almost everything in the house that belonged to me with her own things, from small items like cups to large ones like the bed and wardrobe. Even the women's slippers by the door had been replaced with her exclusive pink pair. As for things that couldn't be replaced, she would wheedle and coax until I gave them to her. And Dante always indulged her, making me choose to step back. MB, just give in to her a little. Her emotions are unstable because she's carrying. Besides, she's only staying temporarily. She'll leave eventually. I lowered my gaze, hiding the disappointment in it. It's fine. Take whatever you want. I don't mind. Nova smiled smugly. She didn't know that I no longer cared about these things. I didn't even care about Dante anymore. I'd just leave and let them have their bonding ceremony. That evening, 2 nights before the bonding ceremony, I packed a simple bag and prepared to leave. I didn't want to feel attached to anything here anymore. But Nova still wouldn't leave me alone. She had set her sights on the ring I wore on my hand. Ember, that ring is so beautiful. Isn't that the legendary moonstone that helps with sleep and calms the mind? Could you let me borrow it? You know how it is, She-wolves who are expecting always have trouble sleeping and feel mentally drained. With this, I could rest better. But she simply snatched it away. That was the only memento my mother had left me. There was no way I could give it to her. No. Dante glanced at me, looking somewhat hesitant. After all, he used to know how much I treasured this ring. He explained to Nova, the moonstone ring is a memento from Emby's mother. I'll buy you a new one tomorrow. She treasures it and never takes it off. Give that back to Emby, and I'll buy you one exactly like it. All right, Nova clutched the ring and smiled at me. Then I'll give it back to you. I had an ominous feeling, and the next second she suddenly let go. I rushed forward. Unprepared, trying to catch it, but I was still a step too late. The moonstone ring hit the floor and shattered into 2 pieces. Due to momentum, I pitched forward. Dante's expression changed as he moved to help me, but Nova screamed and fell to the side. He immediately turned around, abandoning me to reach out and catch her instead. As I was worried about hurting my stomach, I fell on my knees, hitting the ground directly. The pain brought tears to my eyes. My face went pale, and cold sweat instantly broke out on my forehead. Along with my fall, Nova also screamed and tumbled backward. Her eyes reddened as she looked at me pitifully, making herself appear innocent. Dante, Ember's ring broke. Will she be angry with me? She cried. Dante immediately pulled her into his arms protectively, glancing at me with exasperation. Emby, why were you so reckless? She already said she'd give it back to you. Why did you have to grab for it? Look, you made yourself fall too. Get up quickly. He reached out to help me. I pretended to casually steady myself against the table as I stood up, keeping my head down to hide my disappointed expression. I didn't accept his outstretched arm, which meant that in my heart, I had completely given up on him. Jack roared furiously, the sound almost piercing my eardrums. Dante! Have you lost your mind? Ember's your mate. Why didn't you protect her first just now? After seeing me refuse his arm, Dante finally noticed my sadness. He showed a guilty expression and quickly crouched down to pick up the moonstone pieces. Emby, don't be sad. We'll find a designer and have one made exactly the same later on. Jack let out an angry roar that made my eardrums ache. Make a new one. You make it sound so easy. That was Emby's mother's memento. Even if you make one exactly the same, it can't replace the original. The guilt on Dante's face grew heavier. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice calm. It's fine. I'll find someone to repair it, I said while putting the 2 pieces of moonstone in my pocket. Chapter 3. I turned and left, my eyes showing no signs of attachment. Dante should have known that a broken ring, no matter how well repaired, would never be without cracks. It was just like my relationship with him. No matter how much we tried to fix it, we could never go back to how things were. The next day, one day before the bonding ceremony, I went alone to City Hall to file an application to leave the Lightning Pack. The clerk told me the application would take effect in 24 hours. At that time, all my personal information would be deleted from the pack records. 24 hours later, I would board a cruise ship and embark on a journey of freedom. By then, Dante and Nova would probably be holding their bonding ceremony. Sharp, stabbing pain spread through my chest. I pressed my lips together and headed to the hospital. This worldwide cruise would last a month, and I needed to ensure my pup's health. My womb was healthy. It seemed to sense my low spirits and moved gently inside my belly. I lifted my hand to rest on my abdomen. There seemed to be a warm force there that brought some comfort to the pain in my heart. It was okay. Even without Dante, I still had this pup. It would stay with me forever, and I wouldn't be alone. When I returned to the house, I found the living room filled with shopping bags of all sizes. I didn't need to guess to know Dante had bought them all for Nova. Nova smugly showed off in front of me. Ember, don't these clothes and jewelry look beautiful? Dante bought them for me. Oh my, why do you look so pale, Ember? You're not angry, are you? Dante scratched his head somewhat awkwardly. MB, don't misunderstand. Nova's birthday is approaching, so I've prepared some gifts for her. Besides, she's expecting. When her belly gets bigger, her old clothes won't fit anymore, so I bought her some extras. Jack coldly mocked him. You're lying. Nova's birthday isn't for 3 months. In a month, you'd better have a good explanation for your recent ridiculous behavior. Otherwise, I'll refuse to speak with you forever. You cannot let Nova wear that wedding dress decorated with red amber and pearls tomorrow at the bonding ceremony. That dress was prepared for Ember. The 1001 pearls sewn on it represent the memories between you two. Those are the pearls you collected together by opening oysters. Despite my decision to leave, my heart still felt like it was being torn apart with pain. The pain was so intense I could barely breathe, like silver dust had coated my lungs, suffocating me. I had imagined the scene countless times, of myself wearing that wedding dress and bonding with Dante. But I never thought that the person who would ultimately wear that dress would be Nova. I took a deep breath and turned back to my room to pack my luggage. Tomorrow would be their bonding ceremony, and it would also be time for me to leave. At 8 a.m. the next day, I pulled my suitcase out of my room. The villa was empty, and a note left behind by Dante on the dining table. Something urgent came up at the pack. I'll handle it and be back tonight. Don't wait for me for dinner. I took a cab straight to the dock. My future life would be free from deception and concealment. At the bonding ceremony venue, Jack grew restless. He kept muttering to Dante, when Ember finds out, she'll definitely abandon you. Dante pressed his lips together, guilt flashing in his eyes. Ember won't abandon me. She doesn't have anyone else. Without me, she has nowhere to go. And I'll prepare an even grander ceremony for her later. She loves me so much that she'll definitely forgive me. Jack disagreed with him. Just cancel the bonding ceremony. I feel very uneasy, like something bad is about to happen. As soon as he finished speaking, Dante's phone suddenly rang. His assistant, Liam Hansen, spoke anxiously through the receiver. Alpha, there's been an accident. A tsunami hit, and a cruise ship with 1,000 passengers sank. What does that have to do with me? Dante questioned. The dock security cameras caught Ember boarding that cruise ship. We also found her pack withdrawal application and her ticket reservation records. What? Dante's expression changed drastically. He now understood the meaning of Liam's words, I had died. He hurriedly opened his phone. The screen showed live news coverage of the cruise ship's wreckage being swept away by the tsunami. Even the rescue teams couldn't get close. Chapter 4. Dante felt all the blood in his body instantly freeze. He violently pushed open the door and ran outside. Dante! Where are you going? The ceremony is about to start. Nova's shouts echoed behind Dante as he ran. At this moment, his heart and mind were filled only with thoughts of me. His instincts told him I couldn't have boarded that ship. It was absolutely impossible. But what if I really had? Dante didn't dare think about it. He couldn't imagine living without me. When he hurriedly arrived at the scene of the accident, he was stopped by workers at the police line. The dock shore was in complete chaos. The tsunami had smashed the small wooden houses on the shore and various fishing boats. Countless fish had also been washed up on the beach by the waves. Workers were conducting emergency rescue operations. The search and rescue teams had already retrieved a small number of bodies. Dante stood outside the police cordon, looking at those corpses covered with white sheets. His heart felt like it was being squeezed tightly by a giant hand, and the pain made it almost impossible for him to breathe. MB. MB. He called my name in anguish, but received no response. Suddenly, workers carried out another body. The corpse was unrecognizable, and its original appearance was completely destroyed, but the clothes she wore made Dante's pupils contract sharply. Those clothes were exactly what I had worn yesterday. MB. Dante let out a grief-stricken cry and collapsed powerlessly to his knees. He couldn't believe that someone who had been alive and well yesterday had become a cold corpse today. Nova hurried over. She looked at Dante kneeling on the ground, and there was a flash of confusion in her eyes. But when she saw those clothes, joy instantly appeared in her gaze. She was glad I was finally dead. From now on, Dante would be hers alone. She quickly walked to Dante's side, trying to help him up. Dante, don't be so upset. Ember wouldn't want to see you like this. Dante's wolf let out sorrowful whimpers, as if he were crying. He pushed Nova away and walked unsteadily to the corpse before examining it carefully. It can't be. MB can't be dead. She was fine yesterday. How could she suddenly, he muttered to himself, seeming to convince himself. Still, it sounded more like he was deceiving himself. However, a mole on the corpse's arm shattered his last glimmer of hope. That mole was exactly the same as the one on my arm. MB. Dante let out an anguished cry. Then, as if all strength had left his body, he collapsed to the ground. As Nova watched Dante's painful state, she couldn't help feeling secretly pleased. She quickly walked to his side and tried to help him up. Dante, don't be upset. Ember wouldn't want to see you like this. The ceremony is about to start. Let's hurry back. But Dante suddenly lifted his head, his gaze full of coldness and determination. The ceremony is cancelled. What? Nova looked at him in disbelief. Dante, have you lost your mind? How can you cancel the ceremony? I promised Ember that I would only love her for the rest of my life. I can't betray her. Dante. What are you saying right now? Nova's expression shifted dramatically. You clearly promised me that you would protect me and my pup, give me status, and be a father to my child. That was all when I was blinded. From beginning to end, I only felt pity for you. Dante shouted. As Dante spoke, he looked coldly at Nova's belly. And the pup in your womb has nothing to do with me. I'll give you and your pup a place to live. That's already more than generous. Dante continued, now that MB's dead, I finally understand how cruel it was to her for me to protect you, do the bonding ceremony with you, and be a father to your pup. From now on, you need to leave. Chapter 5. Jack sighed. You've finally come to your senses, but unfortunately, it's too late. How could you do such a thing out of sympathy and pity? He screamed. Even a wolf knew not to hurt the person they loved most while trying to help the weak, but Dante didn't understand this. He said nothing. He stood up listlessly and walked in front of Nova, looking at her coldly. He pointed at the wedding dress Nova was wearing. Take it off. I won't take it off. Nova clutched the wedding dress tightly, her gaze stubborn. You put this dress on me with your own hands. I absolutely will not take it off. Is this because of Ember? She's already dead. Why are you still thinking about her? Nova's expression turned vicious. If I can't have it, she shouldn't be able to have it either. I'd rather destroy this wedding dress than let her have it. As she spoke, she reached out to tear the dress. Dante's expression darkened. He grabbed Nova's wrist and icily glared at her. You wouldn't dare. I designed this dress myself for MB. What right do you have to destroy it? Dante questioned angrily. But Nova showed no fear. She looked at Dante coldly. I'm going to destroy it. Just like I broke Ember's ring on purpose. Dante's whole body trembled. He finally saw Nova's true colors then. It turned out his longtime friend was actually such a vicious she-wolf. A flash of murderous intent appeared in his eyes as he threw Nova to the ground. You evil she-wolf. I was truly blind to have pitied you before. With a roar, Dante called his subordinates over to strip the wedding dress off. Nova forcibly. She struggled desperately, but it was to no avail. Dante, what are you doing? Let go of me, she screeched. You actually dared to destroy Emby's things. I'll make you pay the price. Dante shouted with a fierce expression. After he spoke, he personally broke Nova's arms and legs before throwing her on the ground like garbage. Nova let out a piercing scream. She clutched her broken limbs and wailed in agony. Dante, please spare me. I know I was wrong. I'll never do it again. But Dante remained completely unmoved. He looked at Nova with a grief-stricken gaze. If you knew this day would come, why did you do it in the first place? If I had seen your true nature earlier, Emby wouldn't have suffered so much. Afterward, Dante banished Nova from the pack. Unable to accept the fact that I was dead, he became completely dejected. He threw himself entirely into work, as if only in being busy could he temporarily forget the pain of losing me. Everyone in the pack could see it and was worried about him, but they were helpless to do anything. They knew how deep Dante's feelings for me had been. Losing me was undoubtedly a fatal blow to him. Jack also lost his former liveliness, becoming silent and withdrawn. He seemed to miss me, who had once kept him company. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. One day, Dante came to a southern city for business. The reception was filled with clinking glasses and conversation. After it ended, he walked out of the hall. Alone, with only the cold evening breeze for company. Loneliness spread through Dante's heart. He couldn't help thinking that it'd be nice if I were here right now. Suddenly, his gaze fixed on a she-wolf across the street. The woman was holding a little male pup, and her silhouette looked exactly like mine. Dante trembled. He couldn't believe his eyes. He suddenly dropped the champagne in his hand and, after ignoring the strange looks from people around him, strode after that she-wolf. "Emby," he shouted, his voice full of excitement and anticipation. Chapter 6. Across the street, I froze when I heard that familiar voice, and I instinctively turned around. The moment I saw Dante, I was filled with a mix of emotions. It had taken me 3 years to finally escape the past, and now he was bringing back all those memories. I wanted to pretend I didn't know him, but my son tugged at my sleeve. "Mommy, that man seems to be calling you. Do you know him?" I had no choice but to turn and look at Dante coldly. "Sir, you have the wrong person." But Dante didn't care. He strode up to me, his eyes full of excitement and joy. "Emby, I couldn't be wrong. You must be Emby." I frowned, trying to avoid his touch, but it was too late. Dante grabbed my hand, his voice trembling. "Emby, I've missed you so much. I've thought about you every single day for these 3 years." I sighed and forcefully pulled my hand away. "Sir, you really have the wrong person. I don't know you." After saying this, I picked my son up and tried to leave. Then, I heard Jack's excited voice again. "Dante, stop her quickly. She is Emby, and the pup she's with is your son. Hurry, don't let them get away." Dante excitedly blocked my path, his eyes full of urgency. "Emby, don't go. I know it's you." I looked at him with indifference. I had lived well these past 3 years, and I didn't want to have any connection with Dante again. When I left the pack and returned to my hometown in the south, my parents were stunned when they saw me. They looked at me in shock, then burst into tears and hugged me tightly. "MB, you're alive. Thank goodness." I told them I had escaped and was carrying Dante's pup. My parents didn't blame me. Instead, they comforted me. "It's okay. We'll have this pup, and I'll help you take care of him." Later, I successfully gave birth to my son and named him Andy Vale. To support my son, I found a job as a newspaper editor. Though life wasn't luxurious, it was fulfilling. Today, I had just finished grocery shopping with Andy and promised to make his favorite cheese pizza. But I never expected to run into Dante here. Dante looked at me, his eyes full of guilt. "MB, I know I was wrong back then. I shouldn't have listened to Nova's lies and let you suffer. But you have to believe me, her pup isn't mine. I only brought her back because her mate and parents had died while she was expecting, and I felt sorry for her. Then she said she was afraid her pup would be bullied for having no status, so I decided to have the ceremony with her. The person I truly love is you." As he spoke, he grabbed my hand, his eyes full of urgency. "MB, please forgive me. I'll give you the grandest bonding ceremony right now to make it up to you, okay?" I stared at him, but my heart was filled with nothing but indifference. At that moment, Jack snorted with displeasure. "Now you want to make up for it? It's too late. When you were hurting Ember back then, why didn't you think about the consequences? Do you think one bonding ceremony can make up for all the harm you caused her?" I laughed coldly to myself. Even though he was Dante's wolf, he was right. Nothing Dante said now could make up for the hurt he had caused me. He had pushed me away with his own hands back then, and now he wanted to make amends. I stared at him emotionlessly and spoke coldly. "Dante, you've misunderstood. I don't need you to make up for anything. Let the past stay in the past. I don't want to bring it up anymore. I only hope we never see each other again." After saying this, I pulled my hand away and strode off, carrying my son. When we got home, Andy tilted his head and asked me, "Mommy, is that man my dad?" I looked at him and stayed silent for a long time. I didn't know how to answer, as I didn't want Andy to know his father was such an irresponsible person. However, I also didn't want to lie to him. I took a deep breath and looked into his eyes. "Andy, do you want to be with Daddy?" Son paused. He looked at me with pure innocence. "Mommy, I only want to be with you. That man seemed to like me a lot, but if he makes you unhappy, I don't need a dad. As long as I can be with you, I'm already satisfied." Andy's words warmed my heart. I hugged him as I felt my eyes grow moist. "Andy, don't worry. Mommy will always love you." Early the next morning, when I opened the door, I saw a large bouquet of flowers and gifts placed outside. There was a card that read, "MB, I love you. I will never give up on you." I didn't need to guess who had sent them. When Mom saw them, she was furious. "Dante's going overboard. MB, let's move away from here, far from him." I shook my head, looking at those gifts with cold indifference. I didn't want Dante to disrupt the peaceful life I had now, so I picked up those gifts and threw them in the trash without hesitation. Chapter 7. Dante continued to leave flowers and gifts at my door every single day without fail. Sometimes he would also bring various regional specialties and jewelry, hoping to give them to my parents. Still, my parents refused to see him, and I threw all those things in the trash. This went on for 3 months until Dante finally couldn't keep it up anymore. On this day, it was pouring rain outside when Dante knocked desperately at my door. I opened the door, looked at him, and asked coldly, "What are you doing here again?" Dante looked at me with his eyes full of pain. "MB, tell me, what exactly will it take for you to forgive me? Just tell me, and I'll do everything in my power to make it happen. And Andy, he can't be without a father. I want to try my best to make it up to him." After he finished speaking, Jack snorted with displeasure. "I told you long ago that those gifts and flowers were useless. But you wouldn't listen. Do you see now?" Dante ignored him and looked at me with hope in his eyes. However, I merely looked at him, feeling nothing in my heart. I shook my head and said flatly, "Dante, it's been over between us for a long time. I don't have feelings for you anymore. To Andy and me, you're just a stranger now. There's nothing to forgive. If you really care about our well-being, stop disrupting our lives. Our current life is the best it can be for Andy and me." Dante's eyes began to redden. "But I can't accept this, MB. Is it really?" Before he could finish, Andy came running over with his new robot toy. He hugged my leg and looked up at me. "Mommy, will you play this robot toy with me?" I looked at his innocent little face and smiled gently. "Of course, Mommy will come play with you right now." Dante looked at Andy with a flash of hope in his eyes. He crouched down, trying to get closer to him. "Andy, do you remember me? I'm your dad. I want to play with you too. Is that okay?" Andy glanced at him and hid behind me, sensing unfamiliarity. "No." The smile on Dante's face instantly froze. He looked at Andy with disappointment, his gaze destitute. I picked up Andy and looked at Dante coldly. "Do you get it now? Andy, and I don't need you at all. I hope you'll have some self-awareness and stop coming here." Dante looked at me, his eyes filled with despair. He finally understood that Andy and I would never come back to him. He took one last deep look at Andy and me, then turned and left dejectedly. I closed the door and carried Andy to the living room to play with the robot toy. Outside the window, rain poured down heavily. I glanced up and saw Dante's figure disappear into the curtain of rain. After that, Dante never came again. Andy and my life returned to peace. I enrolled Andy in preschool, where his intelligence and charm made him popular with both teachers and classmates. Our days as mother and son were ordinary but fulfilling. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. On this day, I had just gotten home from work when I received a call from Mom. "MB, did you hear? Something happened to Dante." I froze for a moment, my heart trembling slightly. "What happened to him?" Mom sighed and said, "Remember how he banished Nova? She's been holding a grudge ever since. This time, she secretly came back and tried to run him down with a car. Fortunately, Dante noticed in time and dodged, but Nova crashed into a guardrail and died on the spot." When I heard this, I felt a sense of melancholy. Nova didn't need to be so extreme over a werewolf. Couldn't she have lived well on her own? But in the end, she died. Yet all of this was the result of her own choices. I shook my head and didn't think about it anymore. I hung up the phone, changed my clothes, and started preparing dinner. When Andy came home from school, he rushed into my arms and shouted excitedly, "Mommy! I have great news to tell you." I looked at him and asked with a smile, "What's the good news? Tell Mommy quickly." Andy proudly held up the certificate in his hand. "Mommy, I won first place in the school piano competition." "Really? Andy, you're amazing." I hugged him in delight, my face full of pride. That evening, I took Andy to his award ceremony. I was surprised to discover that Dante was the one presenting the awards. The principal said he had funded this werewolf preschool and was the school's biggest investor. As I watched Dante interact with my son on stage, I suddenly felt that maybe I shouldn't be so selfish. Perhaps I should try to accept Dante. After the award ceremony ended, Andy held the various superhero toys that Dante had given him. He looked at me cautiously, afraid I might be angry. Mommy, these gifts if you don't like them, keep them if you like them. I glanced at Dante, who was waiting at a distance. Ever since I had rejected him a year ago, he had quietly continued sending me flowers, leaving them at my door. He would also send gifts on various holidays, but never appeared in person. I knew this was his way of expressing his guilt. If you have time, would you like to have dinner together tonight? I extended an invitation to him. This meant our relationship would take a step forward, and that I was beginning to accept him. He nodded excitedly. He then took Andy's hand, while Andy's other hand held mine. Under the setting sun, the shadows of our family of 3 looked warm. As for whether we would end up together, that would depend on his performance.